Welcome to The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez. This week, Senator Chris Dodd made history as he announced he will not seek re-election. Within hours, and not surprisingly to most with even marginal political interest, State's Attorney General Richard Blumenthal was making his own announcement.
Today, before a packed room of party leaders and press, 63-year-old Attorney General Richard Blumenthal made years of conjecture seem prophetic, uttering the words many had always thought, if not hoped, he would.
I intend to be a candidate for the United States Senate.
He's served 20 years as Connecticut's top consumer cop, earning support after taking on big business like tobacco and power plants, and he says even the federal government. Big business with big pockets that they could now use to campaign against him. I asked him about that challenge.
I hope to persuade them that we have a lot in common. One of them being trying to bring more jobs to Connecticut, revive our economy, make sure that everyone is treated fairly.
Now he'll ask voters for their vote again on a much bigger stage, but he says with really the same goal as his job now.
Serving in the United States Senate is another way of battling and advocating and fighting for people in Connecticut who sometimes have nowhere else to turn.
A Harvard College and Yale Law School grad, Blumenthal is married with 4 children, a family of considerable wealth that today he resisted saying he would dip into if need be, instead insisting a grassroots campaign with public support both of time and money is what he's looking for.
I'm really pretty confident that we'll have enough resources, maybe not as much as an opponent, but enough to reach people with a message that I think will be persuasive and genuine.
Here now to talk more about what that message will be, we welcome Richard Blumenthal and current reporter John Lender. Thanks both of you for coming here today. First of all, let's start off talking with the timing of your announcement, because there has been some light criticism about it. You know, why didn't you just let Senator Dodd have the day? Talk about why you decided that that day was.
Well, I was never one to urge or even suggest to Senator Dodd that he declined to run for re-election, but I was literally deluged with calls. There was a torrent of calls beginning around 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And I just felt I had to respond, had to be somewhat definitive that I intended to declare my candidacy. I will formally announce that candidacy very, very shortly. And that day really belonged rightly to Chris Dodd for his tremendous service to Connecticut and the nation, his extraordinary contributions, his distinguished achievements in the Congress and the Family Medical Leave Act, tobacco regulation, health care. But I felt that I wanted folks to know, and I wanted to respond to the questions that were posed.
Great, John.
You have been known for dealing with consumer issues. Today, as a matter of fact, you issued a statement that you're going to try to hold a company, a bankrupt company, to its gift certificate commitments. But you know, you're going to deal with an entirely new realm of issues here, federal issues. You were asked yesterday your positions on health care, the bailout of the financial industry, and you held back from giving any details. I have another question that I wanted to ask you on the federal level, just to start out that way. The Detroit airline bomb.
Respond first of all to the first question, which is I intend to fight as tenaciously and tirelessly on federal issues as I have in enforcing the law for the people of Connecticut here. And this campaign will really be about who has the record of fighting for the people of Connecticut successfully, whether it's in court or otherwise. On the federal issue of, for example, regulatory reform, financial regulatory reform, I have a record of having favored opening many of the markets that have been opaque and unaccountable, making sure that they're properly regulated, because the lack of proper oversight brought us to the brink, literally the precipice, of economic disaster. I favor health care reform. I will be setting forth those issues.
Yeah, people are going to want specifics. And just as another specific, the Detroit airline bomber, he's being tried in regular court, and there are people who think he should be treated as a hostile combatant, subject to different rules and detention at a military facility such as Guantanamo. You know, if you were a senator, what would your position on this be? What do you think should happen here?
As a senator, I think interference in the judicial process might well be inappropriate. If we're talking about the...
But what's your view on, you know, what should be done here? This is a person who's being accused of being a terrorist. There are some people who think this is a wartime situation, and should a wartime combatant be given the same consideration as that the court system gives our citizens?
I
what do you
think
think about
that a person who is arrested for a domestic crime ought to be tried in the federal courts of our nation. I'd want to review, as a former United States attorney and a Department of Justice official, the specific facts of that case and make a determination as to whether trial in our federal court was appropriate or some other forum. I'm not prepared to give you an opinion shooting from the hip, John, and I don't think the American people would want a senator or a prosecutor or any public official simply going on the basis of assumptions or indirect reports. And so I'd be happy to review that kind of situation as a senator, just as I have every day as a prosecutor, as a law enforcement officer, making determinations on the basis of facts. And ultimately, that kind of responsible approach to enforcing the law and fighting for people in the state of Connecticut is what I would bring and hope to bring to the United States Senate, and changing the way that Washington does business and the way that the Congress works.
Okay, Mr. Blumenthal, if we could move on. You said yesterday that you wanted to take a lot of time to talk to the people of Connecticut to see what their priorities and concerns were. So we put out the question to some viewers, and John from Middletown sent in a question. He wants to know what you think about the Senator Ben Nelson deal for Nebraska. Lots of people have been talking about that. That's the deal where Senator Nelson, some say, you know, sold his vote by saying, you know, if you give me federal funding for Medicaid. Do you think it's unconstitutional? John wants to know. And will you join other states' attorneys general?
There are serious questions about its constitutionality. It can't be challenged yet because it's not a law. Bills can't be challenged, and so any challenge at this point would be premature. But I am consulting with other attorneys general and doing research within my office as to its constitutionality. The spending powers of Congress are very broad, and generally under Supreme Court decisions in the 1930s, Heckler is one of them, they have been upheld, congressional spending decisions, when they seem to be reasonable to the court. So we want to look at it. As a matter of policy, I strongly object to that amendment. I find it extraordinarily objectionable and unwise as a matter of policy for a single state to be given that kind of benefit, especially under these circumstances where it involved a deal with a senator to win his support.
Something that John and I were talking about earlier today was, you know, you said that you intend to stay on, keep on your work as Attorney General. First of all, it's very time-consuming. How are you going to handle it time-wise? And the other question is, don't you think that there might be some instances where you might be pressed to make a decision and thinking about the political ramifications? I mean, not to question your integrity, but I mean, it's human nature.
Well, you know, in a funny way, Lori, running for the United States Senate raises fewer potential conflicts of interest than running for either re-election as Attorney General or running for another position, because the laws involved and the issues involving federal law are very different from the laws that I enforce, which are state laws. And just to give you one very specific example, my office is defending our campaign finance reform law, a state law, which theoretically would cover me if I were running for re-election or another state office. It will not cover me in running for a federal position like the United States Senate. As for the pressures of time, there's no question in my mind that I will be as active and aggressive and tenacious and tireless an Attorney General as people have seen over the last 20 years. I have a record over 20 years of having campaigned for re-election as well as election and maintain the level of energy and enthusiasm in my office. And believe me,
you're going to need it.
I love my job. And I love it because I see a difference, a real and tangible difference, visible to me in the impact on people's lives. And I'm going to continue that kind of active and activist approach. Believe me also, there are more than a few special interests and corporations who wouldn't mind seeing me leave that office.
Yes. Let's just take one more minute. And John, let me give you one last question.
Your potential Republican opponents are already saying, here's another career Democratic politician like Chris Dodd. They're saying he's no different than Chris Dodd. And can you tell me two issues that you disagree with Chris Dodd on?
Well, I took a much more aggressive position with respect to the mortgage lending crisis than did Chris Dodd. I sued the Countrywide Corporation. I also led that effort nationwide among attorneys general to seek restitution of literally hundreds of millions of dollars from Countrywide, from AmeriQuest, from household finance. I also believe in some very stringent and strong measures to overhaul the financial services industry. For example, 5 years ago, I said the hedge funds are in a regulatory black hole, coined a phrase that a few others have since adopted, and urged then, and have urged since, and testified before Chris Dodd's committee on the need for more stringent reforms that open those markets, credit derivatives, credit default swaps, all of the esoteric and exotic instruments that help to lead this economy to the precipice of disaster.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We could certainly spend the whole show talking. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. John, thanks to you also.
Sure.